Guys, welcome to Together We Go, here with Perry Yee. And I'm super stoked that you're able to come up here. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come up here and record this with us. We're out in, now it's sunny Southern California.
Well, it was pouring on the way up here.
Dude, it was.
And there was just a shift. If it was raining, and then.
Okay, so it must be moving south because all morning it was pouring and overcast. I'm like, man, I just left cold, chilly Utah, and now it's cold, chilly, wet SoCal.
Yeah. We've had it all week,
but it's nice now, and I think it's going to stay nice. So, you came out of the teams. Excuse me. Are you from SoCal?
No, I'm from New Hampshire.
From New Hampshire. Yeah. Okay. And so, childhood growing up. What were you into? What'd you do?
Childhood was nothing special. I was into some sports here. Played baseball, basketball, a little hockey.
You played hockey?
A little bit.
All right, we're going to talk about that.
But that was no stellar athlete by any means. I mean, I was more of a gamer, if anything, but still liked to be active and didn't have very big friend circles, but some close friends here and there. And childhood was pretty normal. My parents split when I was like 8 months old. It was just me, my mom, and my grandmother until I was about 8 or 9.
Okay.
And then she remarried. They had a kid, so I got a half brother who's 10 years younger. There was nothing super exciting. I was a pretty quiet kid.
High school, were you a good student? Bad student, bad kid?
I was a bad student.
Dude, yeah. Me too. I was a bad student and a pretty bad teenager.
I was a good kid growing up. Never got into trouble. Kept to myself. But as far as school goes, I was just never. I was one of those things where I didn't apply myself. I mean, I wasn't stupid.
Right.
But I just never had that drive when it comes to academics. And looking back at it now, it's like obviously you wish you could have done better.
Of course.
But just average, super average life.
Did you go into the Navy right after high school?
I went in about a year after high school. Okay. So I tried going to college. I went to college for a semester. And I was like, this is just not for me. And I had one of my good friends from high school had gone into the military right after graduation. And so he was in the Navy. He was a CB in the Navy. And I just connected with him talking about military life because this is 2003.
Okay.
So we're still in the time frame of like you need a college degree if you're going to make it in life.
Yeah, for sure.
Military was definitely not something I envisioned doing when I was younger.
Okay.
I just spoke to him and just kind of figured it was really my only resort to having a decent future. And so I went to the recruiter's office and went to all the branches, and I was like, what's the hardest thing you got? I didn't even know what BUD/S was at that point. And so, the Navy recruiter out there just was very knowledgeable on the program. He'd actually sent a lot of recruits to BUD/S. And that was kind of my decision. And I ended up having an 11-month wait. So I was in the delayed entry program for 11 months until there was an opening. So I still need a source rate.
Right. Okay. Then, so I was going to say they didn't at that time. It was still like you had to go to like your regular A school. There was no what do they call it? A special warfare operator? A special warfare operator now?
Yeah. So they actually became their own source rate when I was in BUD/S.
Okay.
So I went to ITA school in Great Lakes. I spent my first year in Great Lakes with boot camp, A school, and then the dive motivator program, which then turned into pre-BUD/S years later. I ended up enlisting. I went in January of 2005.
Okay.
And that was my first time, leaving home, and it was obviously a big culture shock and shift. But I had plans to go to BUD/S, so I actually enlisted with a BUD/S contract.
Okay.
And so that just guarantees you a spot, right? So going through the regular Navy, because there was no special operations divisions back then. Right. So I was in boot camp with just regular Navy folk, and there was 4 or 5 of us that were going special programs. So Navy boot camp was kind of a joke.
Yeah.
And you're just there, just trying to get past it.
Yeah. And your A school, did they send you to like the shortest A school?
No, it was man, I want to say it was like 3 or 4 months long. So yeah, right after boot camp, there's 2 bases right there. There's the recruit training center, and then the naval side of it.
Right.
So our A schools were over there, and then the dive motivator program was on that same. It was actually across the street from my A school. So I was there for a solid like 6 months.
Okay.
And, so I actually ended up getting my first rollback when I was out there because I got injured. Going through that program. So I was supposed to class up with 258, and then that got pushed to 259. And I forget why, but there was some reason where there was a big gap between those classes. Like normally they're every few months they start up. There's a big gap. So I got stuck out there for a little longer than I had expected.
Okay. I find it funny, you're like, man, I wasn't a great athlete. And then you're like, give me the hardest thing you can do, right? Like, were you a sweat? Like, you didn't know anything about the SEAL teams or buds,
no,
or
it was pre generation of movies and video games and all that stuff.
You had to have watched the documentary with Michael Bain and Charlie Sheen, the documentary Navy SEAls, right?
I didn't see that until I think I was going through Buds. Okay. When I watched that for the first time.
Super accurate.
And then there's another one called Silver Strand, which is
really, is that like a B-rate one?
Great.
Oh yeah, just okay.
I would call it maybe C or D-list movie.
Okay, all right.
But yeah, I mean, so growing up, I battled a lot with depression, self-esteem issues. I mean, the whole gambit. And it's hard to tell why. Again, I had a pretty decent childhood, and I don't know if that goes back to daddy issues and abandonment and all that stuff. But we'll say, for as loving as my family, our parents were towards my brother and I, it was not a very nurturing home.
Yeah.
So they worked super hard to provide for us. They were on different schedules. So my dad worked all day. He was actually in a max security prison out in New Hampshire. He worked there for 22 years, I think. So he was, gone during the day. My mom worked at a restaurant at night. So it was very rare that we had like both parents in the house.
Right.
But there was a time too, and it's funny, I didn't learn this until later in life, but how much words affect you as a kid. And they would jokingly say those things of like, you're stupid, you're dumb, like you're an idiot and all. I mean, as a kid, it doesn't mean much then, but like you're absorbing all this. And so you start to shift and believe these things, and they never did it in a hateful manner. It was always like in a joking manner, but that stuff has an effect on you at a young age. So, so when it came to buds, it was just like, what can I do to kind of prove to myself? I mean, it was for me. Like I wasn't doing this for anybody else. It was like, all right, what can I do to challenge myself, get out of my comfort zone, which it does very well.
I think that's an understatement, but
but it was good, man. I was actually excited. I was excited to go. I'm sure we'll talk about it. I mean, I ended up being in 3 different buds classes. Okay. Went through 3 hell weeks.
Yeah. It was tough. You went through 3 hell weeks?
Yeah, it was a rough time. I mean, physically, my it'll never be normal.
Yeah.
There was so much damage that was caused during that time. But
we talked a little bit about that. When you reached out to me about the BioPro stuff, we talked about how the toll all this lifestyle takes on our bodies.
Oh, yeah.
And going back to like childhood and words mean things. It's funny you bring that up. It's not funny you bring it up, but it's coincidental you bring it up because I was just on the podcast with Eddie, and we were talking about this. And we were talking about post-service, and obviously I was not in the military, so I did different jobs than you guys. But I spent 8 years contracting overseas, deploying, supporting special operations from the intel side and stuff, and then obviously being a SWAT guy and a full-time SWAT guy and just a cop in a really, really bad inner city. And we were talking about like healing post-service, and like how do we get right again? How do we kind of fix ourselves? Not so much even physically, but like emotionally and mentally. And I asked him about plant medicine, and he had done a an ibogaine 5-MeO DMT journey, right? And he's like, yeah, it's crazy. None of what Schwagen.
Oh, the
Lily's,
mailman, the
Lily's on
mailman.
alert. The mailman. Oh, he's like, none of what I saw or experienced in my journey had to do with anything I'd done military wise. He's
Really?
like, it was all back to my childhood.
Yeah, makes sense.
And he's like, it was my dad. And he's like, I saw my dad growing up. He's like, I saw my dad as a child growing up and how he was raised and how he was treated. And then how he raised me and treated me. And he's like, I have the most respect for my dad, and he did the best he could. But seeing where he came from and how he raised me was like much, much, much better.
Right.
And he's like, now I'm trying to do better for my kids. And we were both joking. He's like, oh, Daddy never said he loved me, But like,
But yeah, you look back at it now, and it clicks.
it does.
It makes sense.
It clicks, And like, my son's 13. He's a teenager now, but we train jiu-jitsu together every night, and I still hug him like every day, like give him a hug. Like he'll come up and want to dap me sometimes. I'm like, come here, dude. Like, no, come here, bro. And the same thing. I mean, I had a great childhood and loving parents, but same thing. I think you're 40 now.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're same generation. You're just 6 years behind me. But I think parents, men, society in general was a less nourishing sort of just culture, if you will. So they're doing the best they could, but I don't know. We learn. We learn. We evolve.
I get it, and I think there's also that aspect of the thought of generational curses and things like that.
Yeah.
And so I look back at I only had one grandparent growing up. She was very, very close to us. I mean, again, it was me, her, and my mom for 8 years, and so my mom's dad never met. He was in and out of jail, always for whatever crimes he was committing. He ended up leaving his family and his wife and 3 kids, and so my grandparents on my biological father's side passed before I was born. I never had an opportunity to meet them, but like my father was the black sheep of his family. No one in his family keeps up with them,
right?
And then we're still super close with all my aunts and uncles on his side of the family.
Yeah.
And but like as dads now, I mean, you look and it comes down to us and making sure that we break those chains.
Yeah.
And all we can do is learn from our past, our mistakes, our family's mistakes, and just make sure that we don't pass that down to our kids.
Yeah. Try to do better.
I mean, I'm a new dad. I mean, our baby's 16 months, but it has been the biggest blessing in our life.
Well, if you want like some bad advice, father advice,
bring
just
it.
hit me up. It's like I always joke around. Like I'm like a C+ dad. I give myself a strong C+. Like
It's passing.
your kids will be safe, and your kids will be well fed if you leave them with me. But they're gonna come back and be like, Dad, Uncle Greg taught me this new word. Like we were driving 118 miles an hour. It's like I flew out to Dallas with my son for him to go compete in a IBJJF jiu-jitsu tournament. And as a surprise, because, we rent a car, we're there for a day. And I went to, the app Turo?
I've never used it. Yeah. Here.
So I went to Turo and I rented a Porsche.
Nice.
Because it was just me and my son. It was just for one day. I'm like, I'm going to splurge and take him
yeah.
out, right? And I'm like, all right, dude, don't tell your mom, but here we go. Ready? And I think we hit like 138. And first thing he does when he comes home, first thing, Mom, we went 138 miles an hour. I'm like, that's my boy.
Yeah.
Thanks, dude. So get out of A school. Well, let me back up real quick. How long did you play hockey for?
Just a few years
Okay.
when I was younger. Yeah.
High school, pre-high school?
It was, I want to say junior high years.
Okay.
Yeah. Our high school, when I was growing up, we only had one high school for our whole city. It was very big. When I was a senior, finally they were splitting up the city into 2 high schools. So they actually, our senior year, they moved all of us from the old high school. They built this brand new high school. So all of us moved over to the new high school so they could renovate the old one. And then 2 years after I graduated, they split the city up. But I mean, we have 5,000 kids in our school when I was
Lord.
a senior. But very big talent pool. It was almost impossible to get on any
varsity
sports
team or
teams
anything
for
like that.
the high school. I mean, huge talent pool. So, but it was always for like city leagues. And
What
stuff.
position did you play?
Goalie.
Oh, you were a goalie.
Yeah.
All right. I got into a lot of fights protecting my goalie. I was a defensive. I started as left wing when I was young. I started playing left wing because I'm a lefty. I'm a lefty stick handler. And I'm not a big guy, obviously. Neither of us are really big dudes. But I hit puberty a little bit earlier than a lot of the other kids and started getting real athletic and muscular. And then, they realized I could hit people and that I was kind of like a goon. So they moved me back to left defensive man because I could skate real fast, but I could hit people. And then, you touch my goalie, you get near you crowd my goalie, boy, dude, we're fighting. I got kicked out of a lot of penalties and I got kicked out of a lot of games.
That's why you should have just a stat sheet of all your minutes racked up.
That's it. That's all that really matters. No assists, no goals, just penalty minutes, right?
Like the Bash Bros, right? From the Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, exactly, dude. But it was a rad sport, and I actually attribute a lot of playing that sport growing up to developing my personality to then go into what I ended up going to do. So I love hockey.
What's super sad is 2 years ago, my wife and I were up at this winery up in the Temecula area, and they have an indoor skating rink that they do every Christmas. And so I took her skating, and I hadn't been on skates in easily over a decade.
Yeah.
And to see how flimsy I was, it was embarrassing. I was
Weak ankles.
Yeah, I was so, and plus obviously rental skates are terrible.
Yeah.
But man, it was embarrassing. I was so shameful of not being able to really on the ice. Actually, when I was my first few times I went home on leave, the biggest things I would look forward to was we had an outdoor rink right by our house.
Nice.
Just a public rink at the park. And every night I would go skate. Before I came home, I would call my dad, hey, go get my skate sharpened. When I come back. And I would go after hours, lights are off, and I would just go skate. It was so peaceful.
Yeah.
It was.
It's the sound too. The sound of freshly sharpened skates on that ice. Oh man, it's it's nostalgic for me for sure. That's awesome. So you get out of A school, and you go out to San Diego to Coronado.
Yes. So I came out here in February of 2006.
Okay.
So I came out here. I classed up with 259 was my first class, and again another big culture shock coming out here. But so we came out here with 34 guys from the Dive Motivator program. Okay. So really, a lot of good dudes, people I had been training with for 6-7 months. But I think this is one reason why they ended up making more of a structured pre-buds program is because everybody was going out to buds broken already.
Yeah.
I went to buds with knee issues already.
And that was because of the Buds Motivator program, what they were doing with you guys?
No lie, we got worse beatings there than we did in buds. So mentally,
it gets you ready.
It was great. But they didn't really have any structure or limitations.
Okay.
And so they pushed us hard. I mean, I have some great memories from that time, but we got some really bad beatdowns.
Yeah.
And we went out, came out to buds here in 2006, and let's see, I ended up getting, so we started in doc, started first phase, and I ended up getting rolled Tuesday of Hell Week.
Okay.
So I got nerve damage in my neck, lost all feeling and movement in my left arm for about 3.5 months.
How'd that happen?
Just running with the boats.
And stuff.
Boats on head. And so it was
spine,
a gradual decline too. So you started with the tingling, getting numb.
Yep.
And then at one point in time, my arm was just dangling. I couldn't move it. And so we're doing boat stuff, and we're doing over the head. And I'm sitting there with one arm up, and of course they're yelling at you because my other arm's down. And once they figured out I couldn't move it, which is common, every class has it. A couple kids get it. So they literally tucked it inside my life jacket and allowed me to continue on. And then my other arm started going, and so they cut it and ended up rolling me back. And I was out for 3.5 months. So during that time, they had me in the in-dock office, just being an errand boy, which was actually it was fun because I got to know the instructors on a more personal level.
Okay.
So yeah, it wasn't a bad time. But so I skipped 260, classed up with 261. Same thing at the beginning. Went through in-dock, went through first phase, and then Wednesday afternoon of Hell Week, I had pneumonia, and I passed out in my lunch. We were in the galley, and I blacked out. I went like face first into my food, and I woke up in the ER to people. They were cutting my shirt off. My boots were flying. I had no idea what was going on. They said my O2 level went down to a 49, which.
Yeah, that's not good,
I don't know,
dude.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know a whole lot about I'm not a doctor, but that's not good, bro.
Yeah. And so that was, super scary point in time. But they ended up, I don't know why, they ended up rolling me back again. So, I mean, having 2 medical rolls back to back, I think is pretty rare.
Yeah.
And again, I was no like stellar performer. I wasn't a bad one either. I was definitely in that gray area. So they kept me around, and so I had a class up right away with 261 when they started. And at this point in time, I started my 3rd class with stress fractures. I started with my knees were all jacked up, coming off the pneumonia. I mean, there was a lot of stuff. And so thankfully, during my 3rd class with 262, the instructor staff was actually really cool with me.
Were these the guys that knew you? Like, did they get to know you when you were?
Yeah. So, I mean, it was them plus the first phase instructor. I had also been in first phase 3 times now.
Right.
So there was times when, and at the time being a student, you feel super shameful of this as well. But like, there's times when they knew the class was going to get beat for something, and they would send me off somewhere. And they're like, go to medical, go here, because they actually did a really good job of just trying to keep me as healthy as possible until Hell Week.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate them looking out for me just so that I could get to that spot. And then obviously it was game on when Hell Week came. But finally made it through my 3rd class.
Nothing, bro. They can't say you don't have grit, And I think this leads to a kind of a deeper conversation of, everyone's like, what's the secret? What's the secret through getting this selection or getting through that selection or this selection or that selection? And I've always told guys, for me, and I didn't go to Buds, I didn't get to do any of that stuff. But what I've seen, and, friends of mine that have been through either Buds or RASP or SFAS and the Q course or you name it, whatever selection. I always tell guys, like, I know a ton of really, really tough fit dudes that quit.
Oh yeah. It's very, realistic to have like in your mind the people you think are going to make it. And I mean, we had Olympic athletes in our classes, and these guys that you're like, there's no way they're not going to make it through. And I think it's very surprising when people realize that it's mostly the mental game behind it, and it's who's got that capacity to just push through. But it's your why. Just like anything else, it's your why. Everyone's why is going to be different.
I think it comes down to want and why.
Yeah.
It's like if you have enough want and the right why in your heart and your head, you can put up with some pretty nasty shit. Like because when you got rolled, especially the first time, even I guess all the times, but like how that like mentally was it haunting you that fuck I got to go back and do that again? Yeah,
I mean more so the second time.
Okay,
but the first time. I think the hardest part is just seeing everybody continue.
Yeah.
Now you probably hear this. I mean, I hear it a lot. I mean, you don't make a lot of good friends until after Hell Week because so many people come and go. But I think the downside is I came out to Buds with a lot of people that were my friends already, and so you see them continue on, and it's rough.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing for me, man, is I did not want to be in the Navy. Like I did not want to be on a ship. Actually, during my first class, when we are every Monday morning, you do your 4-mile time run, super early. It's like 4 or 5 a.m. It's still dark out. But during that time, there was actually a ship that was right off the shore there, and I would stare at it, and I'm like, I'd rather be on this beach right now and than to be out there.
Yeah.
You know, they're all probably super warm and bundled up right now, and we're out here getting ready to do our run and then probably get wet and sandy and beat a little bit, but every second was worth it.
It's a pretty good why.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Like,
a pretty
I
good
couldn't
why.
do it.
Yeah. I mean, I know some guys who quit, went to the fleet, and were like, oh my God, this is horrible. I'm going back again. Right. And then they made it through, you know?
I don't know the number. Statistically, you have a better chance, I think, being a fleet returnee because that reason itself. I mean, they had a taste of what it was like on the outside, and I think it's a little bit more motivation. You know, now, I mean, kids are coming straight out of high school, especially now since there's no provided A schools beforehand. I mean, kids are literally going to boot camp, buds.
Yeah.
And not that I had any more Navy experience than they did, but it was just a little bit more time.
For sure.
And I mean, they're going in
Fresh young kids, like young
Yeah.
kids. Man, there's something to be said about a little bit of life experience, a little bit of maturity, you know, and even like you said, like, you know, even like one semester of college and then being out of high school a year, kind of living in the world as an adult, if you will. And then, you know, obviously going through boot camp and then going to your A school. There's something to be said for maturity.
Yeah.
A little bit.
And again, I was still super immature for the time. And especially, I think, for the teams, you know, I definitely was not in the place where I needed to be mentally. I mean, the biggest thing, if I could go back and be the person I am today, I would have so many more different experiences.
Of course. I think that's a natural, because I'm the same way. Yeah. If I could, if I could go back in time but know what I know now sort of thing. Right. But, hey, that's the bitch of life, man. Yep. You know, it's like we gain all this experience and knowledge and training and life experiences, and then we're old and beat to shit.
Yep.
You know, like I told you, like my brain's not been working right the last couple of days. I've been having
super sorry to hear that, man.
A TBI episode. But again, it's part of, I think it's important for us to talk about that stuff too, because people need to understand there are consequences to our chosen lifestyles and professions, you know, and whether that's, you know, going to BUD/S and becoming a team guy, a SEAL, or, you know, going in the Army and going that route, or even, you know, being a cop and then being a SWAT cop. You know, it's like being an explosive breacher for well over a decade. Like, dude, my brain,
that'll do it, man.
My brain's been rocked a bit, you know, so it's part of what we are. It kind of defines who we are now a little bit. And I honestly, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I wouldn't trade any of my injuries, ailments, for a different lifestyle, you know? So you got through Hell Week, right? And I know everyone, like, again, and this is just what I hear, but like Hell Week. But then you go to second phase.
So you actually still have half a first phase left.
Right.
Yeah. So each phase is 2 months. There's like 7 weeks to 9 weeks.
Okay.
And Hell Week is the middle of first phase. So once Hell Week's over, you still have another 4 weeks of first phase before you go over to second phase.
Okay.
But once Hell Week's over, a lot of the games stop.
Yeah.
You know, it's you've proven yourself, and so a lot of the games stop. Then you get kind of into the learning. Second phase was actually probably my hardest.
That's where I was going. That's what I hear. I hear second phase is like, because one, academically with all the dive stuff.
Yeah.
And then I heard pool comp is like
yeah, pool comp's fun. No, I mean, so obviously, the first phase is the most physical, demanding and challenging out of all of them. But yeah, once you hit second phase, I was pretty decent in the water, but man, it's you do a lot of humbling training in second phase, and if you're not comfortable, it's going to show.
Yeah.
But it was definitely challenging for me. Not the worst. So when you have all of your evolution, at least back then, when you have all of your pool evolutions, you had 4 times to pass everything.
Okay.
So you get 4 opportunities. In which case, if you don't, then you'd go to the board and they would either roll you or boot you. So most of the evolutions weren't that bad. But pool comp and the tread, actually the tread for me was really hard.
Okay.
I think a lot of it came down to I had broken down legs and hip flexors, and trying to do the tread, it was so painful.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really the fact that it was a challenging and a scary experience. It brought so much pain.
Schwagen. Hey, Schwagen. Hi. Ma'am, fui.
Hi. New friends.
Fui, Schwagen. Go place. Fui, place. So just sitting there treading, egg beater kicking.
Yeah.
Egg beater kicking, tearing up your hip flexors, your
it was
knees.
rough.
Man, egg beaters, if your knees are weak or loose, you can feel them in your knees, you know?
Yeah, it was pretty tough. But I mean, it took me two tries for that. And then with pool comp, it was 2 as well. But a lot of pool comp also comes down to like your instructor, like who's running your evolution. Some are worse than others. Some are more sadistic than others. But I ended up getting 2 good ones. And my first one, like the fault was on me. Like the first thing he did, he pulled my hoses off, but he pulled them down underneath my tanks. And so I'm fishing for them, and I can't find them. I'm running out of air. And so I go through the procedure. We go up, and he was like, "Where's the one place you didn't check?" And right away, I'm like, "I'm an idiot." And then second time, I ended up passing. I was under there for just over 15 minutes, which I don't know is average or not. Actually, one of our guys in our class, they had a lot of play time with him. He was underwater for 45 minutes doing pull comp. It was nuts. But yeah, it's scary, man. If you are not comfortable in the water, it shows very quickly, and they either feed off of it or they might help you along again, depending on who they are.
I almost like, and I know we say comfortable in the water, and I'm super comfortable in the water, and I grew up surfing and swimming, and and I swam competitively, and but when you can't breathe, I don't know how you get comfortable with not breathing. At some point you're gonna run out of that breath hold.
I think a lot of it too is since you're in a testing capacity, it just adds that level of stress. So for instance, like when I do any type of pool evolution now, if I'm going to go do a swim, I will do the full 20-minute drown proofing test on my own to relax.
Yeah.
In buds, it's the most
feared.
Yeah. It's so crazy how many people get so worked up around drown proofing.
Yeah.
And in reality, it's a very calming exercise.
Yeah.
Really relaxing.
Yeah. Shh, don't spoil.
That's true.
All right.
It's awful. It's the worst thing.
Here's what you need to know. All you need to know is this one thing to pass buds. What's the secret, right?
Strong genes.
Yeah. Strong genes. Don't quit. Don't, be good, be better. That's awesome. So second phase is mostly dive stuff.
It's all,
right?
Yeah, it's all dive. So once pool comp is over, which is within the first couple weeks, first few weeks, you're done with all the open circuit stuff. Then you go into the dragger.
Okay.
Now it's all closed circuit after that. And but man, during the whole half of second phase, you're underwater for 8 hours a day because you're doing a 4-hour day dive. You're coming out planning for your night dive, and then you're doing another night dive, and it's terrifying.
Yeah,
it's terrifying
bro.
because you're out in the ocean. And it's pitch black. I mean, even during the day, that the San Diego Bay is so disgusting. You can't even see your face, or your hand in front of your face. It's so murky and gross. But at night, man, it's pitch black, and you can feel stuff swimming around you. It's so eerie.
You ain't the top of the food chain anymore. It's wild. I've dove a bunch, and I got my PADI certification, and then did a couple of continuing educations, got my rescue diver certification and stuff. And I was real fortunate. My dive instructor, through all of it, I stuck with the same dive instructor, and he was a former Force Reconnaissance Marine. So he took me under his wing. He was like, "Oh, I'm gonna fuck with you, Lappin." Big time, to the point where he basically I remember. It was my advanced. So I got my basic, and then I was doing my advanced, and he would pool comp me in the pool,
really?
Basically. And then I'll never forget one of my first open water qualification dives was done at a quarry in a dry suit. It was freezing. And same thing, like visibility was like nothing, dude. And you had to do everything by feel. And they had sunk an old Chinook down there. I'm a super like vacation diver now. Like if I have to wear a wetsuit, even if the water's that chilly, dude, I'm not diving, bro.
I've never had a good dive experience.
Really?
Yeah, because everything all has been here. I've never done any type of wreck diving or anything, and so I would like to have that experience.
It's dude, we should go do that. We should set up a trip to where, like, so I've done some diving in the Keys. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful, warm, 100-foot visibility, crystal clear. Honestly, some of the most fun diving that I've done. Yeah, she's nudgy. She wants attention. Some of the most fun diving that I've done was lobster diving, diving for lobsters down there. And it was shallow, pretty shallow, and you're just cruising around with a net and the thing they call a tickle stick. And
I got one of those at home.
Yeah, exactly. I got one here. I packed one in my bag. But the first, and this is so stupid of me, right? Like you can tell I've never fished or dove for lobster before. And I see a lobster sitting there. I'm like, yeah. And I put the net in front of it and I get the tickle stick and I go to touch it to push it into the net. And the thing goes, whoosh, shoots backwards, hits me in the hand. I drop the stick. I'm like, oh, this lobster's chasing after me. I'm like, oh, dummy. Lobsters use their tail. They go backwards, right? So I figured out you got to put the net behind them and put the stick in front of them. So, yeah, I ended up getting a couple lobster. But, the first one, I was like, I freaked out. So
I think that's where the East Coast teams do their dive stuff.
There's a lot of units down there doing dive stuff, and then I think the Army's combat dive school is down in Panama Beach area, I believe. Anyway, it's down there.
The one bad thing about the West Coast teams is everything is centrally located. Like we didn't really travel anywhere.
Just everything down the San Diego Coronado area,
or out in El Centro.
Oh yeah. San Clemente Island, you guys.
Yeah, we did some stuff out there too.
So from dive phase, you go into third phase, and break down third phase for the viewers, anyone who's interested.
So third phase is where you get more into your land warfare, your weapons. I mean, you don't even touch a weapon until third phase, and so it's more of getting into the very, very basics of the nitty gritty and what you'll be doing more in the teams. So we start out, like we do a lot of, you'll do some land nav. We would go out to Mount Laguna. You go for a couple of days. You do some land nav. We spend our last 5 weeks of buds out at San Clemente Island. So it's 5 weeks of your land warfare, your pistol, your rifle, really just getting a little taste of like the running and gunning and stuff like that. So third phase it's fun. It's you feel like when you're in buds, you're like, oh, I'm a SEAL. You're in the mindset of like, all right, now I'm training for what I'm hopefully going to do. But third phase is a good time, and it's at this point in time, you're super close with everyone in your class. We had a really close class. And again, being in 3 different classes, seeing the dynamic, and obviously like I've only been post Hell Week with one class, but seeing the dynamic of like we had a really good group of dudes. Even like on the weekends, like when we would go out and party, like we would roll heavy. We'd be out in PB with like 30 people.
Oh, Pacific Beach, man. PB Bar and Grill. You ever go to PB Bar and Grill there?
Or a Typhoon.
Yeah.
I don't even know if any places are still open.
I don't know either. It's been heck, it's probably been maybe almost 2 decades since I've been down to Pacific Beach. So, I've been a few scraps down there. Used to hang out down there a bit and got into a few.
I can see that.
Got into a few fights, just a few. I joke around. It's not a joke though. I used to carry a mouth guard in my pocket.
Really?
Yeah,
that's
how much I get in the fights, dude.
Now, were you instigating?
No. Well,
yeah.
In third phase, are they going over, like, do they start you guys with some basic, like, infantryman tactics? Like, do you go over some of that?
Yeah, so we would do our like IAD drills and stuff like that. which immediate action drills.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
IMT, individual movement tactic stuff.
Yeah,
I'm up, they see me, I'm down,
exactly.
yada, yada, bounding Overwatch,
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Yep, all that on a very basic level, right? I mean, most of us are all brand new shooters.
Yeah.
So it's a very small taste, but it's enough for you. It's like now, I mean, once you transition into SQT, you get into the weeds and learning everything. But yeah, out on the island, it's a lot of that. It's you do some over the beach stuff. Do little water drills. Do a couple long distance. We do a 3 or 6 mile ocean swim, 5 or 6 mile.
Yeah.
One of those two.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
6 miles in open water in the ocean. No big deal.
It might be 5. It might be
5 miles, no big deal. Either way, it sucks. That's a long way to swim in the ocean, bro.
It took us, me and my swim buddy, like 3 hours and 5 minutes. It's a long time, but it's not like a timed evolution. It's more of a like just experience.
Yep.
But it's fun because then like towards the last couple weeks, you start doing like all of your mock missions and stuff. And it's really cool just to get in that mindset of like, first of all, you're just like, man, we're here.
Yeah.
Like, you think it back to all you had gone through, and it's like at this point in time, you're like, we've made it.
Yeah. I'm in camouflage. I'm wearing gear and kit.
We got
like
face paint.
Face
and
paint.
everything.
Oh, the face paint.
A few people, I think like all of our JOs had some monocular night vision and a couple. But then we're all on comms and everything. You get to be in that mindset. Of like, man, you feel like a kid. Like it's the stuff I would do in my yard. But it's for real.
Yeah.
Not for real, but
as
real-ish,
real-ish, as real as it gets in training anyway.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so then you mentioned after Buds, you go to SQT, SEAL qualification training.
Yeah, and so for us, we had a month. Our free fall school was right immediately after. So I don't even think it was qualified as SQT. It was just in the middle.
Right.
And so you do our month of jumping, and then we get into SQT, which is where you start learning all of the things you're going to actually be doing. You go more in depth with your land warfare, your shooting, your maritime operations. Spent a month in Alaska doing your cold weather and NF. So that was amazing. Amazing trip. We went out there in the whole month of June of 2007, and just a phenomenal time. I mean, we had 21 hours of daylight, and it was really nice down below, but we still had all of our elevation, still had all the snow. So you got your mix of everything. But it was a really good time. But then you learn your CQC, so your close quarters combat, your diving. I mean, it's
more tactical. It's like more operationally based, not a smoke session. Right?
No, it's all like they're giving you the building blocks now, and so because right from here you go to the teams after, and so they're trying to develop you as much as they can without that overwhelmingness. And so when you get to the team, you're obviously still fresh, but you have that baseline knowledge.
So I'm curious. Everyone's got to leave their little mark, right? And some new officer takes over an organization or a unit, and they've got to change one name. It's always been CQB, close quarters battle. Why does the Navy? They're like the only ones that call it CQC.
I do not know. This is the time when we were still doing like the Dieter stuff as well.
Oh yeah.
So we had CQC and CQD. CQD was the close quarters defense.
Yeah.
And that was the more like using your weapon or using your firearm.
I did some of the Dieter stuff as well.
Yeah, I didn't like it, but I don't know. It might have been because of that.
Yeah.
Because I know that he had a lot of involvement in the training side of things, and so that the whole CQC could have come from that. I don't know. I like close quarters combat. For me, sounds better.
Yeah.
But CQB also sounds better. So like, even like when I'm advertising for my classes and stuff, like we call it CQB, but literally you go to the website, it's like, oh, here's this.com/CQC.
Tomato, man. It's all the same. It's all the same shit. Same thing. Like I was out with Eddie, And we went to the range one of the days, and we were shooting. We're running each other through different drills that we like to do. And, you know, it's funny. And I was giving him a hard time because he's a lefty. I'm a righty. But we're shooting basically the same guns. We've got the holsters, our gear and kit is set up exactly the same way. We shoot the same way. And then we start talking CQB, CQC. Yep. And most of my CQB tactics actually come from the teams.
Okay.
So in law enforcement, well, I've got two avenues of CQC, CQB. And my first avenue was through law enforcement and SWAT. And we worked heavily with mostly the guys out of Dam Neck. Okay. They would come down. They would do ruts down by us, realistic urban training, right? FMP's full mission profile stuff. And we would set up buildings and targets for them in the city. And in turn, we would work with them for a week, 2 weeks leading up to that. And we would be doing hits with them, joint hits, as if we were the host nation assault force for them, right? And so a lot of our tactics came from Dam Neck. So we did a lot of combat clearance, limited penetration, strong wall type stuff. And most of that tactics came from there. So Eddie and I are talking. It's like we're saying the exact same language, the exact same thing. And I come from a law enforcement route and he comes from the SEAL team route. And then I got my exigent CQB, CQC when I worked contracting, because we were doing a lot of Singleton stuff, which, you know, there's no such thing as one man CQB. Well, guess what?
That's my bread and butter, man. That's what I teach them.
If you're by yourself and your family's in trouble in that building, what are you going to go do? You're going to go run in there to save them. You better know something, right? For us, I would be with a collections officer or one of our analysts, basically. And it could be just me and them in a bongo van in the middle of Solder City, where I'm bringing them to a meet, and I'm the only guy there. And if they run into trouble, I'm running back there to get them, calling QRF and rescuing them. So, folks, there is something such as Singleton CQB. It sucks and it's dangerous.
Everyone should know how to do it. I mean,
That's
like
right.
you said, because I'm in the home defense space now. And that's all home defense is one man CQC.
Yeah, CQB, CQC. CQB, CQC, right? Yeah. We're just going to, but no, you're right. And for me, it's like I tell guys when I teach our CQB course and I break it down for them and I go, guys, all right, who is here with a buddy? And a couple of them show up with buddies. I said, okay, who here went out to dinner last night with their family? And a bunch of them raise their hands and go, who had their buddy with them? None of them raise their hands, right? I go, who is traveling around with body armor, multiple mags, a rifle, night vision, flashbangs, a combat assault dog, drones, explosive breaches? Nobody, right? I get it. It's a trick question. So you're not a SWAT team. You're not a special operations direct action team. You're by yourself. So let's give you some tips and tricks and tactics to make it at least as safe as possible.
Right.
Because it ain't safe. We don't have eyes in the back of our head. You know, we can only really look one place at a time, and it sucks. It's dangerous, but what's the alternative?
Yeah. No, it's a fast forwarding years now. After I got out of the military, I was working at a schoolhouse in down in Escondido, San Diego. And so it was a CQB schoolhouse. I mean, we were teaching civilians, military law enforcement. But
this is a civilian schoolhouse or for the Navy?
So civilian.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was all force on force, strictly force on force. So I was there for years. I mean, we were training 4 hours a day, 5 days a week for years. Never had any consistency like that my entire life.
Right.
But having that element of like you're getting shot at. I mean, if everyone has to experience force and force training, it's the most valuable training you can get. But oh crap! Now I lost my train of thought.
But just doing Singleton stuff and
So we there was one day, I think it was 2015. The naval hospital down in Balboa had a bomb threat, and so the sheriff's department got called in, sheriff's SWAT team, and they got called in, and they ended up coming out to us after the fact because they were saying when they were clearing this hospital with a small team, and there's so many rooms that they found themselves doing one-person room clears, and they had never done anything like that before, and so it was a very foreign thing, and so it's real. Like it happens. Like there might be cases where you get spread thin. Like your team might get spread thin. Obviously, like the home defense stuff, you're going to be by yourself regardless, but you could be in a full-size SWAT team, but it's, that many unknowns that, you got to do what you have to do. And then just having a little baseline knowledge is, will go a long way.
It's massively, massively important. And I tell people, like, it's funny because the tactics from, let's say 2-man and up, right? Which is a team, you and me, the tactics that you and I would use going into a room, going into a structure versus the tactics that we would use as a single they contradict each other.
They do. Yeah.
So it's like whatever you're doing is a singleton to help protect you and get out of that fatal funnel, get off your working wall so that you can clear both corners very, very quickly is vastly different than you being able to go in, dig your corner, I dig my corner, we're protecting each other's backs, and then we collapse our sectors, work the room, and now move on to the next piece because we're able to each cover an angle and protect each other, plate each other, if you will. You can't do that by yourself.
No. And I think the biggest thing for me is, especially when you're working center-fed rooms as a solo, one thing that I've developed now, what I was taught that I've been doing now for the past 11 years is doing those deep corner peeks. So I won't rush in and try to do that 180 because you're still exposing your back to an unknown corner regardless. If there's somebody there with a gun and you're losing that battle 100% of the time.
Absolutely.
So what worked best for us is like doing that deep corner peek at a high level, come out of that fatal funnel, drop to a knee, right? Get that level. That level change is the easiest thing you can do that will really increase your odds.
Absolutely.
Because one, obviously you look around and any bad guy in a corner, what they're looking for is an adult-sized target.
A man walking through the door.
Everyone's going to be looking up here. Just dropping down a level it changes a lot.
Right. And that was a tactic that we would utilize. We would take a knee, real low. I got to stay on the mic, I guess. Yeah. But we'd take a knee, get real low, and basically turkey peek.
Yeah.
And you talk to a lot of people, you never turkey peek, you never do this, you never. Hey, there's not a whole lot of always and nevers, right? Yeah. And there are some tactics that work. And if you're by yourself, man, you got to do what you got to do to try to keep yourself alive.
Yeah. I mean, you're even, because we get clients too, and obviously situation will dictate everything.
Of course.
There's never going to be the same scenario, and you can never train for a perfect snenario. Right. It's impossible. But even in that home defense aspect is, there's times you're going to need to know when to turn it up, when to turn it down. But I mean, realistically, what I try to tell people is you're no good to anybody dead.
Right.
And so if you're just rushing and obviously there's that, well, what if my kid's screaming, and you're going to get to A to B as quickly as you can, but you do yourself the favor and at least visually have your head on a swivel. So because nowadays, especially here, home invasions are happening with multiple threats. Yeah. And if you're just thinking, hey, it's one dude and you're dropping all your unknowns and it just takes one person to roll in behind you and you're no good to anybody.
Well, they're getting savvy, and you see a lot of this home camera, ring camera, CCTV camera footage of, guys stealing cars, going into garages, and they're setting up security. They're having dudes watch the front door with AR pistols, and there's 3 to 5 guys. They're getting savvy to all that stuff, and talking about being with a team and doing 1-man CQB. We had a warrant on this house. It was a meth house. A guy was dealing meth out of it, and it was built by meth heads in the middle of the woods. When I say built by meth heads, it looked like a fun house, dude. I'm not kidding. It looked like a fun house. They just took scraps and scraps and scraps. And they built this fence around the house from corrugated tin or a fence piece or an old car. And that was the fence. And then the house itself was like just built out of foam blocks and OSB board. It's
like a fort.
Dude, it was like a fort. Literally. It was like a kid's fort, right? Yeah. And Schwagen. And we go in and we make our entry. We're going in and we come to a hallway, and I'm number 4. I'm number 4 in the stack, and the 2 guys are in front, and they're doing as best they can cross coverage on this hallway. And as they're moving up, the guy on the left side, there's a mirror on the wall, like a big full-size stand-up mirror. Yeah. And he's kind of like leaning into it, trying to give some space to get that cross coverage, and the mirror spins and he falls into a hidden room. And the mirror was like a fun house. It was like a fun house. It was like a movie. The whole mirror spun on a pivot like a false wall. And the number 1 guy went past it. The number 3 guy blew past the mirror to the number one guy in the hallway. And I was like, fuck, I got to get in there. And I blew right into the mirror and spun the mirror to get in. But that dude was in that room by himself for easily 5 seconds, you know,
and that's a long 5 seconds.
That's a long 5 seconds, man, to be in there if there's someone in there and you know, so it's like always and never. We don't really use those words because, like you said, you can't train for everything. Yeah. You just can't. So, you know, I don't. There's so many podcasts, man, that go back into so tell me about your deployments and tell me about this and tell me. And obviously, if there's stuff we want to talk about, we can talk about that. But for me, I prefer to go into like, what are you doing now? Like, I'd rather. I don't like living on what we used to do. Yeah, it shapes us. It defines kind of who we are and what we've become. But it's that's a part of our life, right? It's a part of our life, and I don't know. I don't even like telling war stories or hearing war stories. I like the funny stuff or the dumb stuff or where we screwed up. But like, so when did you get out?
So I got out in 2011. So I only did 6 years. Okay. You know, I had one combat tour. Yep. And so I'm not some war hero or anything like that. So I got out in 2011, and I tried to at least. So I went back to school, started to go back to college, you know, getting that GI Bill, and I wanted to leave the whole military tactical space. And so my first job out, I was working for this company called Competitor Group. So they are in charge of putting on the Rock and Roll Marathon series. I don't know if you're familiar with that. I'm not. No. It's fun. It's a marathon series that travels the country. They actually do some internationally as well, but they set up, you know, a full half marathon where they get a lot of local bands and musicians to play along the route. So as people are running, right, you get all these local bands, and they'll usually have like a pretty decent sized name headliner at the end. Yeah. But you know, I was working with them, and actually it was my first time traveling the country. Like, I mean, every other week you're in a new city. So it was actually a lot of fun. It's a lot of hard work setting up like the expos and stuff. Because that's what we did. I was in charge of setting up like the expo centers. So I didn't really have anything to do with the race itself. But it was a good time. It was a big change of pace, and again, I got to travel and see the country and see what it had to offer. It was a good time. I ended up working with them for a year. And then in 2014, there was a brand new gun range that opened up down in Poway area, and the beautiful, beautiful facility. I believe it's the largest indoor range on the West Coast. Okay. So it's got a indoor 100 yard, indoor 50, indoor 25, really nice, like pro shop and stuff. But, so I started working there and kind of getting back into at least the gun world. And the job itself was awful. I mean, I was an RSO. I mean, we were just a janitor with the gun,
making sure people don't shoot themselves.
I mean, not even that. We were just in charge of making sure things were clean and pristine for everybody. But that was my first introduction to working with veterans. Okay. I'd already been out for now a few years. I'd never had any interaction with other vets, and so when you're talking about like the struggles that we go through, most veterans, I don't speak for everybody, that most veterans go through with their transition, it was really challenging. Yeah. Especially I had no support. My entire family is on the East Coast, and I'm out here in San Diego, and so I had no support. It was really, I had a few rough years. Got a dog.
Yeah. Oh man, I don't want to go into that, dude. I'm gonna cry on the podcast, bro. Unfortunately, Perry just lost. It was a husky. Yeah. Right. He was a husky. And Perry just lost his husky 14 years. So Lily's been loving on him a little bit.
She knows.
Yeah, she knows. She feels it.
Yeah, but I got myself a dog, and he was obviously a big part of my life. Yeah. But yeah, so this was my first introduction to working with veterans, and it was really cool to have the hearing the stories and then realizing like, oh wow, like you experienced the same thing or very similar things that I did. And I don't know why, as vets, it's so common for us to think that we're alone in everything, when the reality is we all are one and the same.
We're cookie cutters, man. We're all cookie cutters. I say we're putting myself in that.
No, absolutely.
In that realm,
we're still in that same.
We're cookie cutters, and that was a big thing that I've talked about a lot on podcasts. And that honestly is that's what makes me happy now. And what makes my mission now is I wish I had like the savage of a team leader or whatnot, the guy that we all thought was like a mountain of a man, sit us down and be like, all right, boys, look, there are consequences to our chosen profession. And at some point in time, you're going to get out and you're going to become an alcoholic, right? And you're going to do some dumb shit and you're probably going to get into a fight and you might get arrested, and you're going to be struggling with this and you're going to be struggling with that. So how do we fix it? Like this is what happened to me. And, I think in our culture, if we go to someone and be like, dude, I'm not doing good. I'm struggling. I'm hurting. I'm depressed. I'm sad. Fucking suck it up, pussy.
Yeah.
And
it's still like that. I think they do a much better job. At least now there's more organizations out there that you can get in touch with. I mean, I know for the SEAL team specifically, there's, 4 or 5 different nonprofits out there that are dedicated to your transition.
Yeah.
We didn't have that when I was getting out. I look at guys getting out now and it's that they're getting better chances of being set up for success rather than failure. And so, I really applaud all the work that people are doing. And then even within training, they get like nutrition specialists now. They get like recovery and rehab. So it's that they're taking care of the guys a lot better, and it's really good to see.
And I think it's smart. Train smarter, not harder. We learn as we evolve. Kind of going back to like you learn from your parents, and you try to be a better parent. Give your kids more than your parents gave you. And I think it's a smart solution. The fact is, especially for Uncle Sam and the government, we're an investment. That's what we're at. We're an investment, and it's like they want to get their most amount of money out of us.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? They're spending a lot of money on us, training us and getting us prepped to go do these things and be these things. And if they break us too early, they're not getting the full use out of us. So I think it's smart and it's good for us. It's good for the guys that are in now. But let's be honest, I think it's Uncle Sam wants their money out of us.
Well, whatever the reason, as long as it's happening, that's good. But I think what's great for our generation is the military and veteran community is way more respected and honored than you look at past generations and what they had to go through. So that alone holds a lot of weight when you are getting out and people find out you're a veteran. I mean, it's at least I think most people go out of their way to at least show appreciation, which is nice, Right. But as a vet, and we're gonna be the last ones to ask for help and first ones to offer. I know so many people nowadays. My whole life is a veteran community now, and seeing the amount of people that would literally give their shirt off their back for somebody at no ask.
That's right.
And they're going to be the first one there. They're always reaching out. Hey, I got this vet who needs this. I got this vet. But they're the last ones. I don't know what it is. It's the pride and ego,
And they're struggling themselves.
Yeah. But they're the last ones to ask for help. And, unfortunately, it's the more time that goes on, it bottles up. And then that's when you start jumping to the rash, conclusions there.
Yeah.
But again, I think there's a lot of organizations out there that are trying to combat that.
Yeah.
And, all we can do is just try to give them as much support as we can. And
that's it. Yeah. And that's kind of what I'm trying to tell some of these younger guys now is like, dude, you can talk to someone, you can talk to a therapist, a shrink, find a good one. My shrink is a rock star. I trust that dude implicitly.
I might need his contact.
Dude, he's a rock star, man. And, he is, he's massively instrumental in saving my life. Like very literally saving my life. And, he's always told me, and this is kind of, I'm sure you do the same thing when you're teaching guys. He's like, dude, I can't be with you all the time. Like, I'm not going to be next to you or with you if you start having an episode or having these thoughts. He's like, so I'm going to give you the tools and try to teach you how to navigate this and how to combat it when you start feeling that way. And, gives me these exercises, and I started, he's showing me certain meditation things and certain, gratitude things. And it's like the first time you're like, I feel like an idiot. This is so stupid, but then you're like, oh, wait a second. It kind of works. Like, all right, maybe there's something to this.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of it is trusting the guy. Cause it's like, for me, why would I listen to some like nerd doctor who doesn't know what we did and where we came from and what we saw? And, my guy, like on the third session, he's like, you know what? I'm an subject matter expert. He's like, I don't know what you've seen. I don't know what you've done. He's like, you're a subject matter expert in your field, right? And I was like, well, whatever. And he's like, you know what I'm a subject matter expert in? The brain. He's like, I know the brain. I know how the brain works. And the brain works for all of us the same way. So whether you're dealing with trauma from childhood growing up, being abused, or a car accident or something like that, or you're dealing with trauma from your career, your life, he's like, the brain's the brain. So I was like, all right, you've got me convinced. So,
yeah, I think once you can, again, building up that trust, but also allowing yourself to be vulnerable. And I think that's the biggest thing is you need to be open enough to receive it. I mean, you can go to every therapy session in the world, and as you keep those walls up, and it's not going to do you any good.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot. I mean, it takes a lot to just be like, you know what, I'm going to let go of control here, which none of us want to do.
No.
But yeah, I'd like to talk to you offhand more about that for sure. I mean, that's something my wife and I have actually been talking about recently. Is just, it's probably a good time for me to start finding somebody just to talk to you, just to try to look through that maze of what went on and try to help me put some pieces together. But anyway,
it's massively beneficial. And you mentioned something that I think is crucially important, and that's you said something about being vulnerable. And my doc has said that without being vulnerable, there's no growth. You can't grow unless you're willing to be vulnerable. And that goes for multiple things in our walk of life. Is like, I'll use jiu-jitsu as an example. Walking into a jiu-jitsu academy for the first time, if you've never trained before, as a grown man, as a tough man, dude, it's scary. You're being vulnerable. You're like, ooh, I'm going to get beat up by some nerdy pizza delivery dude. It's like, and it's being vulnerable. But unless you are vulnerable and relinquish a little bit of that control, you're not going to grow. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing emotionally, spiritually. If we're not willing to be a little vulnerable with each other, with others, with shrinks, and talk about this stuff, and then, like you said, also receive it, listen and receive it, and actually listen, then there's no growth, And I got a good friend. He's an Australian dude. And he goes around, he speaks a lot in Australia now, but he does some stuff in the States. And it's primarily for first responders, because he knows that there's a lot of outlets for military and special operations in particular. Yeah. So he kind of focuses on first responders. And he starts his speeches, and I'm stealing it. I'm stealing it from him. I already told him I'm stealing it from him. But he gets up in front of a room full of all these tough men, mostly. And he goes, guys, question for you. Who here thinks being vulnerable is a sign of weakness? And he's like, he gets crickets. Nobody raises their hand, nothing. Goes, see, you're all too fucking scared of being vulnerable that you won't even answer my question, right? You won't even answer my question. And he goes, all right, next question for you. Who here thinks me being up on the stage, speaking into a microphone, talking to 500 of you is me being vulnerable? And they all raise their hand. Who here, and he's still a fit, savage dude. He goes, who here views me as weak? And if you do, we can go fight in the parking lot. He says car park because he's Australian. He's like, if you do, we can go fight in the car park, right? And then everyone starts to laugh and everyone starts to relax a little bit. He's like, guys, like, you're all tough. Everyone in here is a tough man. Everyone in here is a capable man. That doesn't change if we're vulnerable with each other. That doesn't change if we show our emotion or talk about our emotions. That doesn't change. We're still capable. We can cry and hug and tell your brother you love them. And then if a bad guy comes in the room, we're all going to go attack him and do work and, deal some death. Right.
Just like talking about Lily over there.
That's right. Exactly. She's like, she's so social and wants pets and cuddles, and she'll climb on your lap if she can.
Yep.
But if someone charges through that door, she's gonna rip their
game on.
freaking arm off. She's a savage warrior, you know. But it's awesome, and I like seeing the tide change. I like talking about it personally. It helps me, honestly. It may be a little self-serving because it helps me when I talk about it with others, but also it lets them know. And like, I'm nothing special. I'm a broken 46-year-old dude, a very average Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and very average
black belt.
everything that I've done in my career. But I'm average. Like, I know savages. Like, I know, you know. But I also know like what I am too. I'm still a pretty tough human, and a lot of these young guys that train with me or whatever, you know, they look up to me in that matter. And, you know, I'm the black belt of the academy. I'm the head black belt. I beat up everybody in the academy, you know. Now when I have buddies come in, they beat the shit out of me, but, you know, that's at a pretty high level. And so they see this and they're like, well, if Greg, and that's actually, I did an event for Fieldcraft, and one of the evenings we do a bonfire roundtable, and I lead it off, and I go deep and dark, you know, and I talk about all my issues and my depression, my alcoholism, you know, losing my temper and getting ready to like do some pretty nasty shit to people, and then being suicidal and all that stuff. And I come to tears more often than not when I'm talking about it. I come to tears. And then you see them start to relax, and you see them start to open up around the fire. And I had a guy come up to me the day after. It was the culmination of the day. We finished the whole day. We were graduating everyone. And after graduation, he came up to me before everyone was leaving. He's like, man, thank you so much for the weekend and like opening up to us. And I was like, yeah, no problem. Like, that's what this is about. This is about trying to spread that awareness and spread positivity. And he goes, well, you just allowed me to open up. And I was like, you know, what do you mean? He's like, well, if someone like you can be vulnerable with us and be emotional and come to tears, like, well, then I easily can. I'm like, what do you mean someone like me? You know, not that I was offended. I was like, but explain. I'm curious. He's like, well, like, you're like the fucking toughest human I've ever met. I'm like, bro, you got to get out there. You got to meet some other humans. He's like, but, you know, here you are. You spent 23 years, you know, in law enforcement and contracting, and, you know, you've been overseas and you've been in shootings and you're a black belt and you compete still and you're this and you're that. And I'm like, dude,
you're a very above average human being, my
bro.
friend.
I'm just a normal man. You know, we all have the same issues. We're cookie cutters of each other.
Yeah.
You went one route. I went a different route. I've made it my life to try to be a caring, capable human. And you've done the same thing. You know, you've done the same thing. It's like, you cut us, we bleed. We all have the same issues, bro. You know, it's like, you're a man, I'm a man, you're a father, I'm a father. And that shapes us, you know. But if we can kind of look at it as a bonus, as a benefit, and help these other guys, guys that don't have that, or younger guys that we know are going to struggle down the road, I think it's all for the better. So, so what are you doing now? So I see the truck you pulled up in. Talk about that.
Sure. So in 2016, my now wife, girlfriend at the time, so backtrack. So I left the shooting range, ended up going to that CQB schoolhouse I was telling you about earlier, spent 3 years just training, building up my skills and knowledge. And again, really good opportunity. Everyone that worked there were veterans. And so, again, hearing their stories, seeing the struggles they went through. So during that time, my wife and I were like, hey, like, we want to, how do we give back? How do we do something for these guys and gals that gave so much to this country, that are so broken mentally, physically, and like, what can we do? I mean, we're two small little people, right? So we decided to start our nonprofit. And so it took a while just to figure out what that was going to be. You know, we don't want to do like a community service driven. I mean, all those are great, but like what will leave a lasting effect? And so we ended up starting this organization. It's called Active Valor. Active Valor.
Active.
fantastic SEAL
Act
movie,
of,
Act of
bro, it was so incredibly accurate too.
It was entertaining. It's what's funny is that my wife used to watch that with her dad before we met. But anyway, so active Valor, and so what we came up with was like, all right, we were like, how can we utilize these guys' experience, their skill set, their knowledge, and to help show them that their community still can be served with, you know, their set of skills, and that they can still feel appreciated, valued. So we ended up starting up a program, our main program. It's called Valor Adventures. And so what we do is we take veterans, transitioning veterans, doesn't matter if you just got out, doesn't matter if you got out 10, 20 years ago, and they get paired as an ongoing mentor to a Gold Star child. So for those who aren't familiar, cool. Gold Star families is a family that has lost a member due to service, whether it's killed overseas, PTSD related suicide, even, you know, medical related things, is, you know, inactive duty. If they died within active duty, they're considered part of the Gold Star family community. And so they get paired up as a mentor to Gold Star kids. And we host these series of very themed, elaborate outdoor adventures throughout San Diego, where the vets can take their military experience and now pass that down to these kids that don't have it in their home anymore. And it was our way, again, of just showing these guys, hey, I mean, service doesn't need to end when you take the uniform off. And I think that's a big thing, is guys are like, hey, I did my time, I paid my dues, and then they kind of go off just being an average citizen, which that's what you do, it's fine. But like, we still have the serving spirit. And so for us, you know, it was like, all right, now you have these two communities, both have lost their connection to the military, whether it was they left or they lost their family member, and we were trying to bridge that gap, and how do we bring them together? And it's, man, I can't even tell you how rewarding of an experience it is to see. I mean, we've been going now for, this is going to be our 9th year this year.
That's awesome.
And to see relationships that have grown from the pairs that were with us from the start. And so when we get Gold Star families, they get paired up with veterans, and we try to keep them as a pair until one of them is no longer with the program. The biggest thing with Active Valor is we don't do anything on the grief portion. There's so many organizations out there that help the families along with their grief, with their loss. We wanted to have a place where they could come. They knew they're going to have a good time. They were going to be with their mentors. They were going to be with other Gold Star kids. I mean, they all know why they're there.
Right.
And this is an experience they get to share together because of their circumstance. And so right now, every family with our program have all lost the fathers in the house. And about 40% were suicides, and another 50% is combat, and then there's been a few medical related things as well. And so, I mean, you want to look at resilience. You look at the Gold Star community. I mean, the tragedies they've gone through and how they've had to persevere and overcome and continue on with their lives. I mean, it's been extremely humbling.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been so fun just to see the relationships that have started from the start, and they're still pairs, or they're at least still friends now. Almost
a decade later.
Right. And I mean, the hardest thing is we've lost a lot of mentors throughout the years of, we had a lot of momentum up until COVID.
Okay.
Because we were an event-based organization, and when they're like, hey, you can't gather,
especially down in California,
threw a wrench into things.
6 foot.
we had a really lots of momentum. Our growth was huge. Our first adventure we had was September of 2017, where we set up this mission-based treasure hunt. So
that's cool.
We were out in Warner Springs, which is just about an hour and some change east of San Diego. Nice mountainous area, some private land. And all of the vets, like, we literally got these ammo cans, filled them with like some goodies and stuff, and then we literally buried them the week prior. And so then we're planning, all right, we're going to teach them a little land nav. So they got their maps, their compasses, they're learning, their heading, their pace count, all that. So it was really fun. Yeah. And so at each waypoint was some sort of puzzle or task they had to complete as a team, as a pair, to get their coordinates to the next one. So they had to be successful in this mission to get their coordinates for the next one. And then there was 5 points until they got to their treasure. And then they all had we got all the kids backpacks and e-tools and all this stuff. So then they bust out the shovel and they're digging up for their tray. It was so much fun.
That's a little boy's dream, dude.
It was so fun. So we had 11 kids for that first event. So seven families total. 11 kids, 11 vets, and we were we were so nervous because we have one shot at this. The Gold Star community is very closed off community, rightfully so.
Yeah.
So when we were starting this, we're nobodies, and so we're trying to find families to participate. And it's we just had to put ourselves out there and be like, hey, this is who we are. This is what we're trying to do. Do you want to be a part of it? And so we ended up getting 11 kids. But we're like, what happens if it's a sad day? What happens if these kids see these vets and it just reminds them too much of their dad, and then it becomes this sad day, which had a lot of potential of happening. But realistically, it just ended up being such a positive experience for everybody, and seeing these big grown men get on the levels, because we had a kid as young as we had a kid as young as 4 who didn't participate. His older brother did, but he kind of hung out with his mom. But I think our youngest kid that participated was 7. So
Okay.
these are little kids, and then the oldest one was 15.
Okay.
And everything in between. So it was a really good experience, and from there, we never had to market to get families.
Right,
It was
sure
just
not,
word of
yeah.
mouth. It spread really fast, and so our growth. We quadrupled our numbers within a year, and at one point, I think the highest member bases we had 46 pairs.
Oh, wow.
And then 30 something Gold Star spouses. But yeah, we've done so many cool things over the years. During the summers, we host an event every Father's Day weekend. Obviously, a very challenging time for these families, and we want to give them just some sort of memory to associate this time, that it's not all sadness. Right. And so we would do these. We'd rent out football fields and do these field games of all these mini games around the field. Our first Halloween, we did a zombie hunt where, in this, I'll tell you what, we do some productions, and for 2 people doing this, pat ourselves on the back quite a bit. But, so we were at, I don't know, have you been to the Carlsbad Safety Training Center?
I have not, no.
So it's where their SWAT fire train is. Okay. An awesome facility. They got their indoor 100-yard range, indoor 25 range, but then outside they have a four-story industrial building and then a 2-story residential building. So they do all their training there. Everything in there can be lit on fire, so fire can come and do other stuff. Really cool facility. So we put on this zombie hunt where all of the kids and vets had Nerf guns, and then we had 70, 80 role players that came out, and then we hired a professional FX makeup crew that came out. Actually, no, I think they donated their time, and so they did the makeup for all the role players. We had some kids crying. It was legit.
It was a real deal.
It was really legit. But the facility, it has smoke, it has noises. It was really cool. Everyone got their mission briefing in the classroom. Yeah. Full PowerPoint. Then they get their mission packets, and so we've done our Halloween thing. We've done for 4 years now, and it just keeps getting bigger and better. The first one was Zombie Hunt. Next one was more of an overall Halloween vibe with all these different monsters and stuff. Next one was a alien based one, which we upgraded from Nerf guns to those gel blasters, full auto gel blasters. And then we gave some to the role players, so now they're in a force on force situation. And then we just did one last Halloween, and it was a Jurassic Park theme, it's so much fun. But we wanted a place that was going to be a good time. They learn skills, right? So these guys get to teach them certain things, but it's just based on them having that camaraderie and building those relationships. And one of the biggest things we didn't account for is our focus was so much on the veteran kid aspect of what it did for the widows.
Yeah.
And so,
I'm sure.
Because now they have, most of the families were already associated from other organizations. Excuse me. But so they get this time where they get to just share we set up an activity for them. My wife does an amazing food, drink spread for them. But they can share their stories of their lives, their husbands, their triumphs, tragedies, just to have that support. And now it's at the point where, it does so much for them too. They come and they're like, hey, take my kid for the next X amount of hours. And so they get free babysitting, but they get to have that time. And there's some sad stories we've heard from some of our families where they had lost their husbands like so long ago, and like they can't talk about them anymore with their family members because it's all old news now. No one wants to hear
Nobody
it.
else wants to go.
So it gives them an opportunity. It's a judgment-free, safe zone for them just to share whatever. And plus, that they're all friends, and it's great to see their relationships continue to grow, and then the dynamic with the pairs, and it's a fun time. But one of the big things for us is when we get to see the outside activities that happen, and it's stuff that we don't facilitate. It's like, and we won't know until we see pictures on Facebook of like, hey, this vet flew up or took his mentor up in his plane, or he went to go visit them for Christmas and they did Christmas together. We've had some of our vets take their kids and their families to concerts, to camping. One of our mentors had his mentee in his wedding party, and it's those are the relationships that we like to see continue to grow, and it means a lot to us because we know that they're going above and beyond, and they're doing more than the requirements and requirement, but it's like they're doing more than they need to go out of their way and just
it seems that it's just massively cathartic for everybody involved. Like I'm watching you and listening to you talk about it. Like I think it's massively cathartic for you. It's massively cathartic for the vets that are donating their time as mentors. It's massively cathartic for the children, for the wives, for the families, for all, it's like, and I mean, that's really what makes the world go round is service, life of service, and that sounds awesome. I want to, we're going to talk offline after this. Sure. I want to see what we can do as far as myself, because I'd love to help and get involved, and Fieldcraft, what we can do. It's donation-based, nonprofit.
Yeah, so we're 501c3, so everything's donation-based. There's no paid staff at all, which is one reason why I had to start other businesses because working for free for 8 years it's tough. But everything's donation-driven, and but I will say that my wife and I are very good with making a dollar go a long way.
Yeah, I'm sure.
We put a lot of heart into handcrafting everything for these events, and I mean it takes 2 to 3 months just to plan and get everything together for these, but it's like you said, it's selfishly it's I kind of started too because I needed an avenue, I needed an outlet, and even though it's sad I don't get to participate in any of these awesome events we put on, but it's like you get to reap the benefit of like this is what we created,
right? And
then here we are 9 years later and it's still around, and not a lot of people can say that.
No, for sure. How can people donate? Where will people go to donate?
Yeah, so you can go to activevalor.com.
That's active.
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 Yep.
I can spell. Right? Yeah, activevalor.com.
Yep. And so on there as well, which is nice, is we have video recaps from all of our events. So that's cool. You can watch and see like what goes into them and just how crazy they are. And then we're really only active on Instagram as far as social media goes, and Facebook, but mainly.
And that's Active Valor. I need to give you guys, it's Active Valor.
Yeah, all one word.
I need to go on there and follow you guys. So I don't want to keep you here all day. I want to let you get back to your wife and young baby girl. But activevalor.com. Go check them out. Go donate. Go give them a follow on Instagram. Support. Sounds amazing. We're going to talk offline because I've got some ideas of some stuff that we could do, maybe even help fundraise for you guys. And where else can people find you? Perry Yee on Instagram?
Yeah. So Perry Yee is my personal brand. I'm really only on Instagram. And then Fortified Measures is my training company.
Fortified Measures?
That's still pretty infancy stage right now. I mean, we've been around for 3 years, but
Okay.
we haven't been very active in like the social world. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate you taking the time, and I mean, I love the opportunity to get and learn and create these relationships. I mean, this industry is really tough. It's and
we eat our own.
Yeah,
dude.
it can be very toxic, and like finding those like-minded individuals that want to continue to build and grow together, man. That's what it's about.
You know, I don't know, dude. I don't have time for that anymore, dude. I don't have
too old for this.
Dude, I'm getting too old for this. I don't have time for negativity.
Yeah.
I don't have time for drama. I just don't even want to deal with it.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I do meet like-minded people that, you know, I feel their values, their principles, like just the way they conduct themselves are on par with how I want to live and who I want to be around, I try to like, all right, let's build this. Let's same thing with Eddie. And, you know, Eddie's thing is there's a reason I call this podcast Together We Go. Because, man, you see all these people, they get really successful, but they isolate themselves and then they start thinking they're this thing, and like their worth is their Instagram followers or their YouTube followers and viewers, and it's people that they don't know, that have never met them, that have never lived what we've lived. And not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with that, but that becomes their circle.
Right.
And then they make it and they're alone. They're isolated. Like, together we go, man.
Yeah.
Like Eddie says, everybody eats. Everybody eats. He wants to be in relationships with people. Everybody eats. We all take care of each other, and there's reciprocity between us, you know. And for me, you know, we met at SHOT Show. Well, we actually talked and met on the phone prior to that.
Yeah.
How did we even get connected?
I think it's Instagram.
Was it Instagram?
Yeah.
But it was someone, wasn't it? It was
Byron.
Byron.
Yeah.
So it was Byron. So, so we, we met at SHOT Show, connected, stayed in touch. I was coming down here. You're fairly local. I appreciate you driving up.
Easy day.
And, I love it, dude. I love what you're doing with Active Valor. Fortified Measures is your training company. Guys, go give them a follow. Go give Perry a follow. Go donate to Active Valor and support your local veterans, support your gold. Let's make everybody better. Let's be nice. Let's just be nice.
It's easy.
It's easy.
It is easy.
Dude, it's easy. Yeah. Be nice, you know? It's although I do like that meme where it takes more muscles to frown than it does to smile. So when I'm frowning, I'm just getting a better workout than you, sort of thing. Gains, bro, right? But no, like, just be nice. Do something nice for someone, you know, and then it's just, let's make the world and the internet a better place, bro.
Yeah,
you know,
that's one thing I'm focusing on this year is that community building.
Yeah.
I mean, I isolate myself like crazy, and everything I try to build everything on my own, and just recently, like doing more with other people, and just like you said, finding those people with the values that align with yours, and just creating good things. You know, train with each other and just have fun.
That's it.
Life
man.
is super short, and it's getting shorter by the day.
It is.
You know, as long as we can make the most of it and just find the joy in whatever we're doing.
Yeah. Well, I want you to come out to Utah selfishly.
No,
come out
absolutely.
there. We'll get you on the mat. I'll twist you up a little bit. I'll take care of you. Don't worry.
That's the biggest reason why I'm so afraid of joining a school is like I'm so brittle. Like, I just had that fear of, all right, day one, I'm going to show up back home in a sling or something, and my wife's going to be pissed.
Bro, I've broken my back. I broke my L4, L5. I've broken my C5 in my neck. 3 surgeries on my wrist, torn my LCL, torn my MCL, a bunch of other BS little injuries and stuff that we've had through our career.
The case all that well.
I know, right? But honestly, like, jiu-jitsu makes me feel better.
Yeah,
it does. And can you get hurt? Will you get injured a little bit here and there? Sure, it's a combat sport,
yeah.
But usually it's our own doing.
Yeah.
It's us being stubborn or egotistical, you know.
Yep.
But it has been the single most rewarding thing for me personally. Talking about building community and culture and just feeling a little bit like a warrior again, you know, so.
That's important as a dad too, man.
Yeah.
Like knowing that you are capable of being that protector.
Yeah.
it's it's something that we probably all struggle with.
Absolutely. So we'll get you out there. We'll get you on the mat.
Yeah,
I'd
love to.
I'll be gentle with you, and we'll get out. We'll do some shooting. We'll do some off-roading, man. And like I said, we'll talk offline about active Valor, and if we'll collab and do some stuff together. So, bro, anything else? Any last words for the audience?
No, I don't think so. I just appreciate everyone who tuned in, and hopefully my story can touch one person. It's not the most exciting story, but you never know what people are going through, and hopefully my words would speak to somebody.
And it's one of those things, like exciting stories. It's like, if you want excitement, go watch a movie. It's like, we could have talked about combat deployments or gunfights or this or that, and it's like, I don't know, man, there's so much of that going on. I'd rather, like, what are you doing now? And like active Valor, like, that's a perfect example of what you're doing now. And I think for us, we led a life of service, right? It was for your government, for your military, for my government, my community. And now after is, what are we doing? So we need to continue to provide that service. And that's why I try to do what I do. And that's, for me, running this podcast is hopefully, like you said, if one person can listen to this and it resonates with them and they donate to the foundation, or maybe they send a Gold Star family to you that they know is in need, that makes this all worthwhile. It makes it all worthwhile. So, brother, I appreciate you coming out. Really do. You. I'm looking forward to doing stuff with you in the future. And, together we go, man.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you, bro. Thank you.
Who's gonna change it? There's a